Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy and healthy start to this nice Saturday, sunny morning over here from Helsinki, Finland. A lot to be talking about today as we do follow up on the weekly CME closures and how it's going to influence the next week to come. Big catalyst on Wednesday, of course, with the FOMC meeting, and maybe even a little bit of weekend price action as well. Although, as usual, I'm not like super enthralled by weekend action. Anyways, with that in mind, I want to remind you actually that we've been a lot more active on Instagram. So if you do happen to care, then there is a link in the description below. Days like yesterday were actually perfect for that because there wasn't really enough to make a new video on. I mean, Bitcoin just played at the bottom side of our range, but just quick little story update on Instagram seems to get the job done, and also just some cool conversations that we've been having over there. So if you happen to care, there again is a link description below. If I didn't already say, I don't know. No coffee is still not treating me well, but yeah. And as always, be aware of the scammers on Instagram. I'll never DM you. I don't have any secret trading accounts. All right, let's waste no more time. Let's just jump right into it. I want to follow up on the star of the show. That's going to be the volatility versus stochastic momentum signature over here, of which we actually do still see this with a positive slope specific to CME. So again, this signal is only on CME. This is what it's been actually tested for. And of course, CME does not trade over the weekend. But what this would say is that, we are looking at resolution still kind of on schedule here, probably within these next few days coming into this new week. Again, big catalyst on Wednesday. So I suspect that is going to be borne upon by a lot of price action as well. But in this case, we do see that the daily BWP does still maintain a positive slope upon closure and even is above the moving average. I still think that we could maybe see it, slide down one more time and then curl around for my little red LARP line right here. Something like that. Certainly still possible, but extremely likely we see it in this next week of price action. I think that we started to see the initial move yesterday, actually, as this does maintain positive curvatures. On top of that, what is the actual signal itself? Well, basically, anytime that we have seen the daily BWP below 10 percentile on CME, the expansion phase from those extreme lows had led to an average move of 23.63%. Done over the course of about basically just over 13 days. And the stochastic momentum oscillator has gone the correct direction of that volatility expansion for about 75% of the time. And as of right now, why is that relevant? Well, that's relevant, one, because the daily stochastic momentum oscillator is still going to be remaining with downside pressure as Bitcoin on CME did close below the threshold pivot on Friday. That would be 29,800 or so. So obviously closing price of 28,920. It will maintain that and downside pressure still resumes. And this is also going to be considered a rejection of the bullish control zone right here as well, right in that nice little red circle. So ultimately, as long as CME is maintaining that, which of course it is not trading over the weekend, the probabilities of this seeing the volatility expansion with downside price action is greater than upside, obviously. But still, I do want to see Bitcoin actually break the range. The range being basically last week's high now to the upside versus basically 28. Technically speaking, it's like 28.6 to the downside, but I do think front runnable below about 28.9 or so on a higher term time frame closure. In this case, right now, pressure remains to the downside. And we do see a few other things as well, actually, for specific to CME. But before we get into that, I do want to say that because we are starting to actually see, expansion here, at least in the way that it is designed, we can forecast what sort of price action would be implied, as far as the average result goes. Again, an average move of about 23.63%. So, could be a little more, could be a little bit less, but just taking that from presumably our expansion time over here, if that does continue to the downside, 23% puts Bitcoin at about $23,000 or so. That is, of course, very, 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 very close in alignment with the 200 simple on CME as well, just at around 22,250. I think spot price action maybe a little bit higher. Now, basically same thing, 22,300 actually. But ultimately, these are important for kind of generating confluences between these targets. We should naturally sort of see these. Now, of course, until we actually do see a break of the range, I still would be a little bit reserved, although yes, I've kind of been making my bias a little more known, especially in the past week or two now that, well, I mean, really it's been since like $45,000. That downside is the most likely thing. I still don't think that Bitcoin has necessarily seen the lows, or at least if we have, we very likely retest reasonably close to the lows. But hey, if it does come to the upside, if we see this flip look back around, Bitcoin, opens up Monday, basically above 30,000 bucks. And specifically, if you do see Bitcoin trade above not just last week's high, but actually even this prior week's high, the one that we just traded through, then, well, actually would say that would be extremely likely to see that expansion to the upside, obviously. And that would constitute a range resolution breakout, and, probably looking at price action somewhere around about 37,000 to 38,000 bucks. Still think that's, somewhat possible, I suppose. That would also have good confluences over here with I believe the 618. Yeah, the 618 Fibonacci retracement. Actually, no, it's right around the 0.5 would be the Fibonacci retracement that would kind of correlate with good confluence there. But ultimately, Bitcoin probably more likely to go to the downside here. The only thing that really makes me kind of hold back on that statement a little bit more is just the general sense that it really feels like the market in general is like very fucking bearish in terms of sentiment. The old saying goes like, when everyone's thinking one thing, then the opposite happens, right? The problem is we all get stuck in our echo chambers, right? And myself included. So in this case right here, I still think that Bitcoin has greater downside probability. Again, as long as this condition is met, that's what I run it off of. I'm just reading the statistics. That's it. But hey, if we do see anywhere above last week's high, so not even the week prior, so that would be I think the 31st of May. Let me just double check. Let's go over here. That would, okay, don't even care what, it is the 31st May, but 32,450, no longer that one. I would even say, even just above this prior week's high, which was 31,805 on CME, I would say that we see that move very likely put in a bear market rally first, extremely likely into the mid, maybe deep $30,000 territory, probably somewhere around 37 at least. We also got a nice little gap coming in there as well. Anyways, other than that, I did want to also point out a few other things, again, specific to CME. So it's not trading over the weekend, so it's kind of a moot point for right now if you are trading over the weekend, but for the setup for the week to come, few things over here, right? All right. So first and foremost, well, maybe not foremost, but daily RSI breaking below the exponential, also rejection of the neutral zone. And, theoretically speaking, we will be having hidden bearish divergence, I believe on a 2-day. Sorry, no, that's actually just on spot price action. Yeah, actually we got it. We got it right there. But daily technically kind of would as well a little bit, although it is rather far away to be fair. So probably not a super strong drive. What is rather concerning to me, however, is the daily jewel, which did close dark blue, and that is within the context of very, 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 very low volatility reads over here on daily BBWP. So, basically one more close over closure with that dark blue. Very likely to break, very likely to gap down over the weekend if we see something like that. Anyways, what else do we have? We do have over here for our weekly stochastic momentum on CME, which again, this one's already closed. So this is already set in stone here, but weekly stochastic momentum pivot is at 29,800 or so. Yes, it is very, very deep here in the critical zone, or I wouldn't say, it's pretty deep to be fair. But just because it's deep doesn't mean that it has to turn around exactly right there. It's not until we actually see that curl around where I'd actually say that we do have a nice corrective move in store. So again, assuming that Bitcoin remains to be below basically 30,000 bucks by Monday, pressure remains to the downside. And this is actually, we even closed below last week's low, I believe as well. Yeah, we did. Quite nasty right there. Or sorry, hold on. 28,920. 20, yeah, we did close below last week's low on CME, so quite nasty there. Anyways, also a little bit more on the not so Boolah-ish side, perhaps, would be Dixie maintaining the upside posture that we were looking for, which is good. Or, well, I don't know if it's necessarily good, but it was good that the analysis played out in that way, I guess. Looking for a continuation here. Again, I'm massively macro bullish. We did say that a pullback down somewhere around a low $100 was likely. It actually didn't get necessarily exactly to there, so Krown's wrong. Kill him. 101 spot 297. But yeah, now getting liftoff yet again, and monthly looks like it's ready, and quarterly closing at the end of this month is obviously massively macro bullish as we play out hidden bullish divergence over here, plus the lowest quarterly, this is a fucking quarterly chart, BBWP reads ever recorded, in fact. And even the quarterly jewel is getting upside curvature here as well, which is kind of a recipe for disaster over the next, few years, perhaps. Then again, timing never really my thing. Also of particular interest over here is going to be the daily funding rates, of which these have been phenomenally consistent with just getting the day's direction. We haven't bothered tweeting them out for like a couple days now because it wasn't like super, it wasn't like super exaggerated over here. But hey, if you want something to chew on, I guess ever so slight positive rates over here. So longs are paying shorts. again, these are really small numbers. So now let's come into the short-term timeframes for Bitcoin. Let me pull up a new chart. Is this a fresh chart? Can we use this one? Yeah, we can just use it, whatever. All right, cool. So what are we looking at right here? Well, where's the bottom side of our range? Let me pull up my nice little blue box of peace and prosperity. We got one right here. Okay, that's basically 28,900 on a daily closing basis, or about basically about 28,800 on a medium-term time frame closing basis. As always, over a weekend, I really don't put too much emphasis on price action like this. You know, could we see a contra move, maybe a bit of a fake out to the upside? Definitely possible. I mean, you've already seen Bitcoin play out, nearly $1,000 off the lows. Decent. But where do things actually change for Bitcoin? Because things now kind of get tricky here. Well, to be quite frank with you, in this case, there's not a humongously good way of doing it, at least in my opinion, except for one, the most obvious way, which would just be trading back above that last prior local high on a minimum of 4 hour. That would also indicate a reversal. Short-term timeframes, like an hourly, do we see anything of interest right here? You know, we do see low BBWP, but nothing super obvious right now. And that does not include direction, and direction is not super obvious from this. I mean, if we do see another extension on this rally, maybe 29,650 to 2970, or sorry, 29,700 in the cards right there, but nothing really changes here until Bitcoin actually puts in a bit of a short-term reversal, which, where's your last lower high? I mean, technically like right on over here. So I wouldn't even include this one just because it is, you know, it's more or less just continuation. So ultimately, Bulaw's got a lot to prove. In fact, you know, what probably happens, probably get like maybe one more drive down, maybe another bounce, something like that. And hopefully that leads us into the new week. Anyways, what else do we have? Okay, the other way that I could be looking at this is simply by pulling a fib here. We do see, oh, what do you know, the 618 coming in right around that area. So, you know, as long as Bitcoin's below there, the likelihood of any sort of an early reversal is, you know, very low. Technically speaking, you know, short-term corrections to the 382 is kind of what you'd be looking for, but even that seems far away. But hey, that's just my opinion. Maybe we can go check out stochastic momentum and see what's going on over here for the short-term timeframes. Maybe pull up this chart. Yeah, it's getting way down there. Where's the pivot? 29,450. Okay, interesting. 6 hour is pivoted at 29,650. 12 hour is pivoted at 30,000, and 3 hour is pivoted at 29,000. So we see a wide discrepancy between these. Probably just gonna be some range action over the weekend, and maybe another upside try. You know, 29.7 is certainly not out of the question. Things start to change around, like I said, specifically above the 618, which is like way far up there. And the early glimmers of hopium would be above basically 29,900 right here at the 382, just a quarter above there actually. Other than that, trad markets closed on their lows, not great. Pretty fucking ugly right here. But it's going to be strange to see if we actually get this move going before FOMC next week or not. If we do, then, well, I guess there's no sense in trying to guess what's going to happen before then, because that's just like way too far away anyway. So I'll just leave it at that. You know, do I think that we break down over the weekend? Probably not, but at the same time, you know, this setup is realistically for the next week to come, and as long as Bitcoin again is below these price points right here, probabilities of downside continuation are greater than upside reversal. So hopefully that was helpful, and there you go for Bitcoin, sirs and zers.